Okay, thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Andover Board of Finance public hearing for the town budget for the fiscal years 2025, 2026. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for
Liberty
all.
and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So our main goal with this meeting is to receive any comments from the public on the budget. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes up front just talking a little bit about the budget, showing briefly where we are. I know possibly not everybody has had a chance to look at it or follow the meetings or the developments as we've gone along here. There's been an awful lot of work that's gone into this and a lot of long meetings, et cetera. But I'd like to just give you a brief overview. Before we do start, though, I just want to make a couple of comments about participation tonight. Everyone's participation and comments are welcome. We do want it to move along pretty efficiently, so a couple of ground rules I'd like you to try to observe. First off, try to keep your comments fairly brief and to the point. Keep them to 3 minutes or less if you can. And, if we need to come back to you later, if you've got more to say, we can certainly do that. But we want to make sure everyone has time to participate that wants to participate, without undue time for everybody. The other thing is to just noting that if you happen to agree with something somebody has said previously, then you can simply say, I want to agree with what this person said previously and support that, and then go on. We don't need to necessarily repeat all the arguments, et cetera. Couple comments too about the education portion of the budget. This is probably not the place to provide public comment on the educational portion of the budget. That has been discussed and gone through during the Board of Ed meetings. So it's not in the Board of Finance purview to change those line items at this time, either the RAM budget or the Andover Elementary School Board of Education budget. If you have questions or comments, they're best directed to the Board of Ed and the superintendent. And of course, there will be a town meeting next week in which you can participate, and the budget will be discussed and incorporated at that point. But this is primarily, I think, going to focus on the town's operating and capital budget. Okay. All right. I guess with that being said, we will go ahead and move on in the agenda, which is we're going to receive comments from the public. Before we do, I'll just take a couple moments to share the highlights. More spreadsheets. Seems like I've been staring at these all day today. Okay, you should be seeing my screen. I will just point out some things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the details. I primarily want to hit the highlights. So I'm going to move straight to the bottom line here, okay? The town of Andover budget is made up of 3 primary entities, and they all contribute about equally to the town's budgets and expenses. The Andover Elementary School has a proposed budget of $4,729,155. You can see that on row 24 here. I'll bump it up just for any of you looking at a small screen. The RAM budget is proposed at about $4,135,000, and then we have the town operating budget, which is at $4,191,000 roughly. Okay, so those are the 3 main contributors to the town budget, which end up at the total amount with those 3 ends up being $13,056,000 and some change there. So it's a significant budget, but as you can see, there's some changes here. The Andover Elementary budget, the requested budget from the Board of Education is set at about 8.8% higher than previous. There's a lot of reasons for that they've explained in some of the workshops, et cetera. The RAM budget is actually going down this year because the Andover percentage of Andover students attending RAM is decreased for this year. And then the town budget is actually reduced over the total fiscal year budget for 24-25 by about 2.6%. That leaves the total increase at about a 2% increase. So certainly less than the cost of inflation that we've been looking at recently. So what does this mean to the mill rate? The mill rate is actually going to increase about 4%. Again, that doesn't mean that taxes are going to go up 4%. Taxes are actually going to only go up under this budget by about 2%. So the 4% is really about how the taxes are allocated. Because of changes that to the way that the legislature had the kind of they added some legislation that required us to value vehicles in a different way. So the vehicle property tax value changed. It's offset by increased taxation basically in the mill rate. So I had to increase the mill rate to make up the difference for the vehicle values under the grand list. And so, you know, in a way, you can kind of think of it as shifting the tax burden more to homeowners or property owners and less towards the individual vehicles that the town of Andover taxpayers own. Okay. So some complicating things. It's a little bit complicated. I'm happy to explain those in more detail if anybody has any questions, but that's the upshot. So we're looking at about a 2% increase total taxation increase under this budget. And we'll go through just some of the details real quick. Total tax revenue, we're looking at about, these are various revenue by taxation. So we're looking at about, that's not right, about 10 million derived from current year taxes and about 341,000 derived from other taxes, prior year taxes, liens, interest taxes, and some other personal property taxes. We're also expecting about $2 million in intergovernmental revenues, which is really the grants we get from the state and other sources. So that's educational cost sharing is the biggest piece of that. That's our allocation from the state to help pay for the schools. Okay. Some investment interest, our treasurer and Eric have worked real well. They've gotten a really rewarding interest-bearing account in which we've been investing the town's funds, and that's been very successful. It's about $150,000 in revenue annually. So that's been a great help for the town. Education, as I said, the RAM budget's about $4.1 million this year. The AES Board of Ed budget is about $4.7 million. Okay, and again, those are normally discussed and reviewed in other venues. So we normally wouldn't talk about them at great length here, but you know, if you do have questions, we could do our best to answer them. And then there's a lot of departmental budgets available. You know, the town administration, the tax collectors, the assessor, the registrars, the elections costs, the building departments, library, community center, town office building maintenance and management, insurance, employee benefits, etc., town hall, town garage, old firehouse, town attorney. Public works is a big one. There's about 457,000 allocated to public works. We have another 100,000 just for snow removal. So you see things like that. Transfer station management, a couple $100,000. Recycling, ground care, etc. Public safety, the resident state troopers, a significant line item. The fire department, significant line item. Public welfare, there's a lot of smaller budgetary costs in there. The various commissions and boards tend to be fairly minor. And then we have capital. So every year we both put money into capital accounts and we take money out of capital accounts for various items. So these are the major expenditures that the town may go through. There's a contingency fund, which we use every year to just manage in case we have any overages in various departments. The multi-use building fund, this used to be called the senior center fund, but it helps support some of the multi-use building. Fire engine fund, this is paying for the payments on the new truck or tanker that we as a town voted on last year. Public Works Equipment Fund, same thing. That amount of money is allocated to vehicles that have been purchased. And then there's various road improvement funds, tree removal, Bunker Hill Bridge and Culvert Fund, Building Main Fund, and the Andover Elementary School Capital Fund, okay, which is actually at zero this year. And a small open space fund, which we actually also zeroed this year as a proposed budget. And we have no debt. So there's no debt retirement or interest expense, and we should all be pretty happy about that. I think that's appropriate for us to, as a small town, we sure don't want to have any long-term debt that we don't need. Okay, so stating that, I guess, Eric, I'm gonna stop sharing now unless somebody needs something else, and so let's go around and collect input from the public.
You want me to do that, or you want to do that?
I'll tell you what, I can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I will call on each member of the public that I see by the name that's showed on the screen. And if you have anything to contribute, just unmute yourself and you can speak. If you don't have anything, if you can unmute yourself and just let us say, you know, you're all set, and we'll move on. So the first person in my,
Mark, I was going to say, Jed Larson, it looks like he has a hand raised. I mean, maybe we should have people raise their hand and.
No, well, let's go around. I'd rather go around. Not everybody listening may have the ability to click on a screen and do the hand raise thing easily. So, although I appreciate the sense of possibly doing it in an efficient manner. So, Jed, you're the first person on my list. You want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Okay, well, if I have my hand raised, I didn't do it intentionally, and I look at my screen and don't see it there. But I did want to at least voice the concern that I was disappointed when we eliminated the open space funding. You know, it was a fairly small amount of money that we were trying to put in the budget to try and boost that fund. And I know the budget's tough this year. But you know, I was actually I thought we had a good conversation on the value of open space a year ago when we put it in, and so you know, I was really hoping the finance board was going to increase the cut that the Board of Selectmen put in there. But so you know, we talked about the increase in the budget being less than the rate of inflation, and we end up cutting the town budget, which really means that you know, it's a bigger cut than we have listed there because it doesn't account for the inflation. And so I was hoping that that we would consider, you know, either 25,000 or 50,000. I don't think that's a big budget driver one way or the other. Keeping that in because I do think it's a beneficial to the town. We don't see that benefit today, but at some point we're going to, and it's kind of like an insurance policy. And there have been a couple of nice properties over the last couple of years where we could have got state matching funds to match us, but we just didn't have the money put aside to go out and pursue those. And I feel bad that we missed those opportunities. So I would just ask the finance board to consider putting that small amount of money back into the budget since we are cutting the town budget overall. And that was it.
Okay, thank you, Jed. Appreciate it. Okay, you could go ahead and mute yourself if you would. And next up, I have Pat Grimaldi.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Next, I have Carol.
I'm all set for now. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Linda Fish.
All set.
Okay, Diane Grenier. Can't hear you.
You're muted, Diane.
No, I think she unmuted. I'm hearing something.
There's some kind of audio interference. Doesn't seem to be, can't
No.
catch anything she's saying.
It says connecting to audio. Maybe it's there. Okay,
Yeah.
try now.
Try it now?
There you go.
Yeah,
We
there
hear
you are.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Good. Thank you. I apologize. Well, first, let me thank you guys for all the hard work to put this together. I know that it's a major job, and keeping this down to 2% is applaudable. Thank you very much. I apologize. I've not looked at the budget, so I'm winging it here. And one of my questions is this the place where we can ask you to consider adding things to the budget, or is this only the one where you can subtract things?
This, you can ask for any changes that you want. So the Board of Finance has not finalized this budget. I think we're pretty close to where we're taking votes on all the key areas.
Okay.
In the town meeting next week, once we have a finalized recommended budget, which we'll present then, at that point, we can only reduce the total budget. We can't add to it.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's in there or not, but the Board of Selectmen, a couple months back, decided not to pursue a $4,000 for the community center for their software package to help with their recordings and things. And if that's not in there, I would like to ask that you consider purchasing that software package for the community senior center. I don't think that Tess, I think she's terribly overwhelmed. Being part-time there's too much work for a part-time person to start with, and she should not be spending her time shuffling paper, doing reports and all those sort of things. And I think the $4,000 for the software package was short-sighted by the Board of Selectmen. And I think they ended up saying that they were going to give it 30, 60, 90 days and then readdress it. And I think this is the time that should be looked at and reconsidered. I think that's really important. I also think that that position, the director, should be a full-time position. Again, I think there's way too much work and too much expectation for the director to be doing this on a part-time basis and without the software and all the tools that are required to do the job properly. So that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good input. Appreciate it. A couple of things I'll comment on. It's certainly within the purview of the Board of Finance to add $4,000 to the line item for the operating budget. I do want to point out that we cannot make the decision to purchase software or anything else, though. So that's really the executive branch function, which would be the selectmen. We could request that funding go into the budget, and that's something we could take up in our subsequent meeting when we're going to try to finalize the budget today or tomorrow. But we don't know whether it gets purchased or not would be up to the Board of Selectmen. So
Well, I see we have some of the Board of Selectmen are on here, and Eric as well.
we're not going to have that discussion tonight, though.
No, but it's just, listen up, boys, listen up.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Okay, next I see Jesse.
Good evening. I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Does the Board of Finance accept the Andover Elementary School budget and just plug it into the town budget?
Yes. Well, it's part of the budget that the town, the budget submission.
The Board of Finance does not review it before we plug it into the spreadsheet?
No,
We review it, but per the town charter, we're not supposed to make any changes to it.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have line item authority over the Board of Ed's budget. That's their purview. We do go over it with the superintendent, but
All right. Thank you for the education. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mark?
All right, Joanne. Yep.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody that turned out tonight. This is what we look forward to. I know we've had a lot of long meetings, where we discussed a lot of things in depth, and hearing from the taxpayers about whatever they want to talk about is fine with me. And I understand, I look forward to this night because that's when we get the input. Of course, we're going to get a lot of things that they want to be added in or whatever. But some of the things that were already discussed tonight, we did discuss in depth. I mean, it's never easy to make cuts. I know someone talked about the open space. But we went, in depth about why we made that cut. So that was discussed at our last meeting. Yeah, but I just want to appreciate everybody that took the time. You know, I used to be one of the ones sitting in the audience there. So thank you all for being here and giving us your feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, move on to Mary Ann Guile.
Hi, I'm trying to start my video here.
Hey, Mary.
Oh,
Yep, we
hi.
can see you. We can hear you. Okay.
Great. Hi, I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. And I just want to agree strongly with what Jed Larson said regarding the funding for open space. And I just want to add that the reason we pursue open space is it's such a benefit to the town. And we've been told on many occasions that when surveys are done of taxpayers and residents in town, that open space acquisition and maintenance is always something that's generally supported and popular. So we're not speaking just for ourselves, but for town residents. And as Jed mentioned, we, as an example, we had an opportunity to purchase a property, large pieces of property that are desirable in terms of conservation and open space purchase do not come up for sale often. And because of the cost of the property and how long, we're talking months, it takes to get funding from a state grant, we lost the opportunity to purchase the property. So I expect the same will happen in the future. We scan the real estate ads and we try and purchase, but unless we have some kind of funding readily available, it's very likely that any additional desirable properties that come up will be lost to us because we don't have the funding available and it's purchased on the open market for development or for house building or whatever. So I just wanted to mention that it's something that I don't think there's an actual amount we need to put in every year, but at least something should be contributed every year so that the account grows and we make some investment money on it. And that should be kept in mind. And the members of the commission are all very interested in seeing that happen if possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary Ann. Next I have Scott Person.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, Scott.
Hi. I'd like to also talk about the open space. The Board of Selectmen took $25,000 off of it. And then you guys took another $25,000 off. I believe that what Jed and Mary Ann is saying. In the state asks the towns, it's not mandated, but it's encouraged. Up till now, it was 24% of the acreage they wanted to see kept in open space, and we have 23 now. So, we need to keep that money rolling. And they're saying by 2030 that they want 30% of open space per town. So I believe we should have kept that money in there. It was already, the 25,000 was already taken out, and then it was diminished into zero. Another thing is, everybody's crying about the maintenance to everything, and you took money out of the road and the building maintenance. So, I'm surprised you didn't take something out of the tree fund, but you know how good we've been doing on the trees. You have to continue to maintain everything in the town. Taking money out is not going to help maintain it.
Scott Person, I think we still have you. Eric, are we recording still? Looks like we are. Scott, I think you can unmute.
It says, Mark, that I cannot start the
You're
video
there.
because it's disabled.
Yeah, video is disabled, but
Oh,
you can
maybe it's-
probably speak. Yeah.
Right. So, that's my 2 cents, Mark.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right.
Moving on, I want to make sure I didn't lose anybody. Looks like my screen readjusted. Chris Karakali, did you want to contribute anything?
No, thank you. I'm just here listening. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. Anne Creme? Looks like you're unmuted, Anne. We're not hearing you if you're speaking. Tell you what, I'll come back to you a little later. Might be able to put something in the chat if you want. Wally Owner, it says.
Nothing at this time, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Valerie Bruno?
Hi, Mark. It pops up on your screen, by the way, once you try to unmute yourself for a participant, it then pops up on the screen to ask to be unmuted. So that might be the problem if people aren't looking at their screen, is they have to ask to be unmuted on the mode that we're currently in. The only thing I will say to Jesse and anybody else that did still have questions about the school budget, by all means, I absolutely am available at the office. If anybody has any questions between now and next week, please reach out via email or by phone, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Valerie. I think I've asked all the Board of Finance members to unmute, so we should be okay there. Okay, next up I have Marcy.
Hi.
All set, yep.
Kind of getting over the last shock of that video. I wanted to find out, I couldn't tell by the budget how much of the money that we get comes from the federal government. The reason why I ask about this is you guys, I'm sure you know what's going on, and I think we should be careful to think about how much funds could be potentially cut off from our budget. And the last thing we want to do is ask townspeople for more money because the federal government is not paying what they normally do. Okay. The second thing I want to address is I'm kind of surprised that you take the Board of Education budget and you just slip it through and send it to the town. From what I understand, you could recommend that they use some fiscal restraint and ask them to reduce their budget by a certain amount of money. You can't tell them where to spend it, but I'm pretty sure you can tell them they need to keep it in line.
Thank you.
I feel like an increase of almost 9% is irresponsible. It's pretty high, and they've been having, high budgets for many years. And I think that it's important that the Board of Finance helps the townspeople in this regard, because you know how it is when we get to a town meeting, we can't do much. That's all I got.
Mark, are you going to respond to that, or do you?
Yeah, I'll, if you're all set, Marcy, thanks. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. I don't know about the first question. So how much of our revenues are actually come from the state, from the federal government? I think actually very few. There might be some grants that we're looking for. There may be more that comes indirectly from the federal government. Certainly, most of our money comes directly from the state, including a lot of our grants. I don't see Eric on, oh yeah, he is on. Eric, so I don't know if you have anything to add to that, if you know more than I do specifically about where the origin of those grants comes from.
Sure. So the answer is the only thing that we're getting at this very second that is very definitely federal money is the bridge replacement grant, which is a project that is ongoing right now, and it's certainly a concern of ours. Supposedly that is protected. That's what the state DOT is telling me, but it's certainly something I'm nervous about. That's roughly $3.2 million project that's already started. So I don't think it's a project we can just terminate. You know, other than that, most of the money that the town gets, ECS is the primary source. As far as I know, that is state taxpayer funded. There's not federal dollars in that. So the vast majority of money that the town gets from the state comes from, you know, town taxation. Do I think we can count on them restoring the cuts in ECS? No, given how many holes in the state's budget, I don't think that's something we can guarantee, which we could in years past, but that's already baked into the budget. So, you know, other than that, you know, there's no question that a fair amount of the state money that's out there is actually originates from the federal government, but we just don't really necessarily even know at the town level what that is. So it's hard to say what our exposure is, but I don't think it's that high other than the federal local bridge project, which is going on now, which is the Bunker Hill Bridge replacement.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Eric. Liz, you have your hand up, it looks like. Did you want to comment?
Yes, I do want to. Well, I just wanted to comment to say that people are not able to contribute to the chat. It's disabled, probably because of the way the meeting is. And if I or anybody goes, you know, puts their mute on, we can't get back in. We can't unmute again. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. So if you can raise
can
your hand, I'm
finish.
trying to make sure the Board of Finance members remain unmuted. So
Yeah.
you may want to
and
stay.
so you can,
may want to stay unmuted if you can. So.
yep. Yeah. All right. You can finish answering, Marcy. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
thanks. Yeah, and so to get back to the second question that Marcy asked about the Board of Finance role with the education budget, it is true that we can comment and make recommendations on the budget. You know, we do have a presentation typically from the superintendent, Board of Ed. You know, sometimes people have comments, sometimes they don't. We don't tend to make a general comment. I think we all agree that 8% is a difficult number for sure. But generally, we're going to leave it to the town. This is really the town budget. The town meeting is designed around that. And of course, the Board of Ed, that's their primary role. They should be, you know, also exercising, of course, appropriate restraint and what, you know, they feel is appropriate for the town, and hopefully they are. So you know, just to read from the charter, it just said directly the Board of Finance may add to, delete from, or eliminate requests made by various departments, offices, and agencies, except that the board may only comment and make recommendations on the budget requests of the local Board of Education. So there's some, you know, there's some nuances, of course, to that, but that is what the charter says. Bill, did you want to comment?
Well, I would just encourage Marcy to talk to Valerie if she has questions. Valerie did a great job of explaining where those increases come from. And mostly what we were told is the student population has increased quite a bit. They have 2 classrooms, I believe, that are up to 27 students apiece. And by state mandate, I believe, Mark, and you correct me, we have to hire 2 new teachers is what we were told, based on those 2 classrooms reaching their maximum size. So a large part of what I understood from Valerie and the Board of Ed was the 2 new teachers that we are mandated to hire because of classroom enrollment. So it's not like they're just spending a lot of money, you know, willy-nilly. I think they're just doing what they have to do to, meet state requirements. But again, talk to Valerie about that, Marcy, because she would be able to explain
Yeah,
it better
yeah,
than
I think
myself.
it's better, probably better directed at the Board of Ed, yeah, because there's some nuances there, I'm sure, beyond us. So. Okay, next on my list, I have Leanne Hutchison. You should be unmuted, Leanne, if you want to add anything.
Mark, she usually talks through a phone number too. I'm thinking it's the 742-3475. I could be wrong, but if you see that, you might
Yeah,
unmute
I'll try
that.
it. I'm not sure that they can unmute from the phone.
Oh, that's true. Right. You have to do some kind of.
There's some some
Hello?
gyration. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah,
there she
okay, there
goes.
you are. Yeah.
See, we got it.
Is that
Yes,
you,
this is
Leanne?
Leanne. Can you? It is.
Yeah, okay, good. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the overview. And I realize that I have not, or I realize that I haven't gone in and looked at the everything in a lot of detail, including the Board of Ed budget. My question was along the lines of what just came up and some of what Bill Jerosher just mentioned. What is regarding class sizes? Bill just mentioned 2 classes with 27 people, so now I think I have a 2-part question. I was going to ask what the current average class size is and what the average class size would be if the number of teachers that the Board of Education is requesting are hired. And then I guess the second part of my question is, according to what Bill just said, how does the state come in and mandate how many teachers we have to have?
I think Valerie's on the call if she.
Yeah, I mean, Valerie, I'm going to unmute you. I would, again, I'm sure these questions have been answered, but I'm not really sure that, we're certainly not the authority here.
Sure, Mark. So 2 things. First of all, again, I don't want to hijack your meeting. I absolutely will answer the questions and then urge anybody who would love to sit down with me to please give me a call. I have sat down with a few people by phone and in person. Yes, most of what Bill said is right on the mark there, is that we can't have 30. There's 36 current 3rd graders. We have 1 4th grade class. So right there, that's a class right there. There are, in addition to those 36 kids that need to have 2 classes next year, in addition to that, we also have class sizes above 4th grade that are currently at 27 and 28 with no new registrations for next year. And that's all of our kids in that class. This is not taking into consideration any special circumstances or needs of particular kids. And again, I don't want to take over your meeting here, but I've always said it also depends on the students. When someone says, well, how many kids are in this class? How many kids are in that class? It depends on the needs of the students. And recently I actually just used an analogy that you can't just say, let's count the number of kids and let's count the number of teachers. We have to look, and that's why a lot of what we did as a Board of Education in planning this budget had to do with specificity to other mandates like special education needs. And I say that because I know that there is, I believe, 57 or 58 streets in the town of Andover. And we have 5 people who work for Public Works. How silly would it be if I said, well, we're just going to divide the number of streets by the number of Public Works guys, and they each have 11.4 streets. And so there you go. That number sounds great, that 5 guys should each be able to take care of 11.4 streets. That would be silly on my part if I said that, because Eric would be the first one, and rightfully so, to say, Val, do you have any idea how big certain streets are versus other streets and the needs and this and that? So it's not a one-to-one comparison. And I would really love to just remind people of that. But Bill is exactly right that we do have too many kids for the current upper grade classes, because unfortunately, when the enrollment went down years ago, that was the way that they balanced that budget down to the 0 and less than 0 increases that they had gotten for a few years, was through the reduction of staff alone. And they were able to do that many years ago. We just aren't able to do that now with our increases. So this, unfortunately, is that year. And it'll, definitely be a little bit difficult for people. However, this has got to be that year. Last year, I know we had 16% on the town side and people weren't happy, but it was a necessity. And this year, unfortunately, it is the necessity for the school side. So thank you. And again, I'm still open to anybody giving me a call or an email, and I would be glad to sit down with anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank you.
Mark,
Yeah.
before we move on, I just wanted to there's been so much talk about the open space that I feel like I need to address it for the people that are here. I want them
Sure.
to know that obviously this is a painstaking process. Everybody could come on and have their thing that their heart is into. And I get it. And I think I even know most of you on here and what you would, everybody wants to keep everything in every budget line. But we came on this committee, or, we were elected to do a job. So I want you to know that we do put a lot of effort into it. The questions we asked Jed and Scott about the open space was, and I also want you all to know there's an account that has grown. So just because we might have cut a certain budget a certain year, there's a ballooned amount that is in those accounts that we study. So when I made the motion, I put my name and face behind the cuts that I put out there. I'm the one that asked about the streets because we had about $1 million that was going to be in that fund. We didn't take anything down to zero. The questions we asked about open space was there anything on the agenda that was coming up? Because we had a sizable amount in there. And then if something is found, luckily we have a contingency fund. We have a surplus fund, and I forget if I'm calling the unexpended fund balance, I think is the more correct term, that anyone could maybe petition to Eric and try to get something funded. So again, it's not easy, and we thank you for all these comments.
What are you talking about? Mission Eric.
Okay. Anything else from the board members? Okay, it looks like I have one more person. That's Mary Holler.
No comment, just listening. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, I guess I'll just open it up a little bit. If there's any member of the public that has anything additional they want to add, I think you can raise your hand using the Zoom function if you want to add anything additional. I'll give you a minute here.
Jeff Ballard here.
Yeah. Are you in the community room, Jeff?
He is.
Okay. I'm sorry, Jeff? They're muting again, or it's getting muted, Eric.
I didn't mute him.
Mark, can you unmute? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't unmute, but I can request.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, I just came down from the Andover Community Garden meeting, and they suggested I be here to answer any specific questions about the garden budget. I had forwarded information as to the one time this year and what that was going for, and what our projected budgets in the future were, as well as articles that were run in the River East by myself that would give Board of Finance a better understanding of where we come from, our history and our accomplishments.
Okay. So that I think that Louise had forwarded that information. Louise?
Yep, that's what I was going to say. And
Okay.
in the meeting that's going to be following will probably be.
Okay. So in the subsequent meeting, we'll discuss that. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Okay. And Anne Creme, you have your hand up? I think you're unmuted now, Anne.
We're not hearing you if you are talking.
Oh, I may have lost her. Oh, she's still there. Yeah, and we still see you with your hand up. You're unmuted, I think, if you want to add anything. Yeah, we're not hearing anything.
Yeah.
We were able to hear her previously, right? So,
Did she just go off? Oh, there she is again.
yeah, it's kind of moving around.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess at this point, we can consider that we've taken the public comment. A lot of good questions, about the process, and good input from everybody. We appreciate the attention. We know it's a lot. We all have busy lives, and for you folks to follow up and be involved, it's appreciated. This is how it works. So thanks very much. So Board of Finance members, we can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting or close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing during the meeting.
I'll second that. Okay, Kim seconds. Yeah. Any discussion? Bill, you got your hand up?
No, I lower it now. No, I'm in favor of also
Okay.
moving on.
Yeah,
I'll go
discussion.
ahead.
I'm just gonna once again thank you, everybody, for taking the time, being an active member of the community. We really like to hear all opinions about everything. So thank you. Thank you for knowing our meeting was tonight and for coming aboard.
Okay, Board of Finance members, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. The meeting is still open. We need to entertain a separate motion to adjourn unless the board has any other further comment.
Are you talking to us now, Mark?
I am.
Are you
Yep.
trying to end the meeting? Are we going, or?
Well, then we close the public comment section. If you look at the agenda, there's like
Oh,
two
I
different
have
items.
it.
One is to close close the public comment section, and the next would be to adjourn the meeting.
To adjourn the public hearing.
Yeah.
Public hearing.
Yes,
And then we're moving on to our special meeting.
right.
Okay, thank you. Just making sure, the way you said it, it sounded like we're just done for the night.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So we're
You'd
gonna,
be so lucky.
okay, we're gonna stay on, though. We're not gonna close it and
Yeah, Board of
restart it, right?
Finance members, and anybody else who chooses to can stay on for the subsequent meeting.
Thank you. Yeah.
I still need a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Didn't we
Oh,
just do
I'll
that?
motion.
I thought we just did that.
I
No,
thought we just
closed-
did
We
that.
closed the public comment. We need to close the
Oh.
hearing.
Oh,
It's the way it's written in the agenda.
okay.
Okay.
Point of parliamentary procedure.
That's why I was
Okay.
confused. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to close the public
Okay.
hearing.
Thank you, Louise. That was Kim.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
I'll
Any
second.
discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Bye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you again, everybody. We will be reopening another meeting. This will be a special meeting with the Board of Finance to continue the discussion on the budget based on the public comment. And if necessary, we'll also hold another meeting tomorrow to continue to discuss and work on the final budget to be recommended to the town next week in next week's meeting. Hope you all come to next week's meeting, Wednesday, 7 p.m. in person at the town, actually in the school gymnasium. So thank you very much for attending. Feel free to stay on if you like. Board of Finance members, does anybody need a break?
Nope.
Okay, then we will we'll go ahead and now call to order the special meeting. This is the special meeting for the Town of Andover Board of Finance on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. We'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
Which it stands,
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with
and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we actually have another agenda item. The first part of this meeting agenda is also public speak. So if any members of the public would like to contribute, again, I think probably it's just best to go around and ask. First on my list here is Scott Person. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Diane Grenier?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jed Larson?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Carol?
All set for now, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Jesse?
Hi, this is Jesse Person, and no, I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Harakali? Hopefully I'm saying that right. Chris, anything? Okay, we'll move on to Valerie Bruno.
I'm all set. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, and Marcy?
I know, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Leanne Hutchinson?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, and Mary Holler?
Nothing to add, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, those of you who aren't on the Board of Finance or the town, if you could mute yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody in the community Andover community room that would like to make any comments before we start?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Board of Finance members, as you know, our next item is to continue the discussion on the budget. So I will go ahead and share the budget. Okay, as all of you know, we worked pretty hard on this last week and the week before and week before. A lot of work went into this, and I think we're fairly aligned. So I guess I'll leave this open to the Board of Finance members. Would anybody like to have any discussion about any specific line items that we haven't already settled on, or anything we have settled on and you want to add more? Bill?
I guess I would just start off by saying that, some of the cuts that the people talked about that came on, generally speaking, the open space fund, and of course, the software for the community center, these were decisions that were easily made. They were painful for myself. I believe that we should have both of those funded this year. What the Board of Finance was trying to do was trying to trim a budget back that was looking at I think at the time, a 2 mil increase. So I forget the exact percentage of dollars and all that. So it was just, again, the Board of Finance trying to, in a tough year, to hold spending back where we thought we could. Based on the number of people that talked about the open space fund, I guess I would make a motion that we would do some small amount just to keep something in that fund, maybe $10,000, so that it doesn't go to zero.
You want to give me a number?
10,000 is what I just said. So I would make a motion that we add $10,000 back into the open space fund, just so that, again, that it doesn't go to zero and disappear off our radar, going forward. So that would be my only comment right now.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, that was Louise, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think the motion is before the Board of Finance to add $10,000 back into the open space fund. Discussion?
I would just say, I think I opposed the cut that we made last week. So I'm obviously in favor of putting money back in. I'm not sure what the material difference between 10 and 25 really is, but yeah, I'll support this motion.
Yep. And Mark, I just want to add that there's no way we're going to forget what we cut. Like, I'm going to remember every single thing. And we're going to remember that we had such a budget year that we asked the question, of what, if there was anything on the horizon. I believe the total in that fund right now is over 300,000. So we've got a good pot of money in there. So I'm going to oppose it just because it was painful at the beginning. We have to cut somewhere. There's no way this budget was going to pass, in my opinion. I mean, unless, we have 3,000 residents and a lot of senior citizens and different things. So I'm just trying to be responsible for everyone. Yeah, that's my only thing, but we're not going to forget because we're going to remember I've taken good notes. Yeah, my opinion. It was hard.
Okay, Bill and Louise, you both have your hands up still. Are you?
Oh, sorry.
You want to add, or is that? later?
Actually,
Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I have a question.
Yep.
I'd like to discuss the community garden budget.
Okay,
Yeah,
we have a motion before us now on the
Yeah.
open space fund. We should vote on that first.
Okay.
So any more discussion on the open space fund?
I'd just like to add that I do agree with Bill. It was hard, but I think it's great to put the $10,000 back. I think it's fine.
Okay. Liz, any comment before we go on?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with $10,000. I think we did our best to try to make little cuts here and there, and it wasn't a huge amount to begin with. I think just, so it can add a little, compound a little from the previous years. I'm not terribly opposed to that. Not a hill I would die on.
I think we've heard from everybody. I think we heard from Robert already. Yeah. So I'll just, for the record state, I think it's too low. I personally would rather see it go to at least 25K, but I understand where we are, and so I'd support it also. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. I'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Is anyone
Me?
abstaining?
Yeah,
Joanne, you're opposed? Yep.
I think it makes common sense, and I know we have funds to pull from if, so yes, I'm opposed at this time.
Okay. And any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. So just to take a look at the impact on the bottom line, it's kind of as mentioned, it's fairly minimal. It increases the total by taxation 2.1%. So it's that's of the 10,000 units, it's a 0.1%. Okay. Further discussions on the budget. So Louise, you wanted to talk about the community garden?
Yeah, while Jeff is on the line, Jeff submitted it to me, I submitted it to everybody, because they had some further comments and questions on it, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Jeff. Because
Liz?
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I went onto the community garden Facebook page, and it was quite impressive. It looks beautiful, and I saw that there was quite an irrigation system in there already. So I'm curious about why you're asking for more stuff for more irrigation. Could you maybe explain that?
If I can get myself unmuted here somehow.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, yes, we have the capacity of 1,700 gallon rainwater collection for our irrigation system. The irrigation system is complete. What we are missing at this point is the pump, which is in this year's budget at $1,800, but still won't get us a functional irrigation system until we get electricity to the shed from the culvert in front of the shed, whenever they run the wire for the upgraded generator behind the firehouse.
Oh, do we know when that's going to happen? Anybody?
So I'll
Hear
answer
me?
that question. We did not get the federal funding that we requested, so I would say I have no idea. Sometime in the next
Okay.
10 years.
Okay, I have another question for you. And I heard this from the Board of Selectmen, so that's why I'm asking, that at one time, and I saw this on the Facebook page, thousands or hundreds of pounds of vegetables had been being donated to the Andover Food Pantry. Is that something that you guys still do? Is that still the plan, or what is the plan for that?
Well, in the past couple of years, I have been doing a major part of the work without a lot of volunteer help. And so I approached the pantry this year, and because we had 2.5 beds to the pantry, we delivered over 1,000 pounds of fresh produce this last year, and they're stretched thin for volunteers, and said that they could not find anybody to volunteer to tend the beds. And so at that point, we decided that we were going to divide the beds up in half so that we could offer beds to resident families to tend their own beds and be responsible for their own beds. And any of the surplus will be going to the food pantry. I have, as it stands now, I have 2 half beds myself, and I donate 80%, 85% of my produce to the pantry. So we're hoping that it won't be 1,000 pounds, but we're hoping to make a major contribution to fresh produce to the pantry this coming year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Eric, I just wanted to clarify, I was looking at the notes and I can't remember from the discussion. The note says the Board of Selectmen reduced the line from $46,000. Clearly that wasn't the request. You're muted, Eric.
That was the original request. The original rec commission request was for $40,000 for upgrades to the basketball backstops in the gymnasium.
Oh, under rec programs. I'm sorry. So the community garden, I guess I was getting that confused. I'm sorry. My mistake. Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, if we buy this pump this year, there's no guarantee or idea when it would be electrified. So we could spend the money, but not actually get electricity for any time in the near future. Is that true?
That is correct. As far as I know, the reason I put it in was to get the system completed. So all we are waiting for is the power.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion or questions from the Board of Finance, or if anybody wanted to make a motion, you could also do that, of course.
Are we talking about just this item, right?
Well, it would now would be the time relevant to ask any questions or discussion around the community garden line. If
Gotcha.
anybody
Yep,
can.
thank you.
But if there is none, I propose we move on.
By proposing to move on, that means that particular line item is as it is. Is that correct?
It's as it is right now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other line items that the Board of Finance would like to discuss?
Yes, Mark, I have a couple. This is Joanne. So as you guys know, I've talked about a couple things in different public meetings, and maybe the board, I've sent you some information of the background of things that won't be discussed here, but kind of along those lines. And Eric was nice enough to supply some background too. I've made it known publicly that now that we have a senior center director, I think it would be a great idea that we move some of the duties that are paid under a stipend for the social services. I think it's called the social services coordinator. You can find it in a couple items in the budget. It'll be under an employee's additional pay, and then it's also under senior citizen. This particular thing, and obviously we're talking about next year. So this person would still retain the rest of the duties for the rest of this year. We're in March. So that's plenty of notice for that to go away. I know I also was taking into account in our budget documents that Eric had provided. I didn't know this was in existence, but there was an memorandum of an agreement signed about this position. And it was signed, the last one we have was signed in 2020, July of August 1st, 2022. So we are within our rights to take away this stipend now because the agreement says that we are allowed to terminate it as long as there's 30 days of written notice. And again, it's a big, long thing, but I think, and according to this MOU, I'll call it Memorandum of Agreement or MOU, the person, is not to give more than 6 hours of time to it, I believe. And our charter also says that this type of position should be an unpaid volunteer, which we've discussed before. So without further ado, with that little bit of background, because this stipend, now that we have a senior center director who can act in essence as the municipal agent for the elderly, a perfect spot for these duties to go. We have both a senior center director, we have a senior center assistant director. I know that by charter, we have to have this person, someone to do these duties, but luckily we're a town of 3,000 people. I'm giving everyone the background that's listening. So it's not a very busy position, I would say. So I think we could save the town $7,500 next year, not this year, with this stipend because it's up to like $6,100. And it's also collecting MRF. So to the tune of about 7,400. So I would like to entertain a motion to eliminate this stipend from next year's budget.
Which accounts are we talking about, Joanne?
So I
It
think
needs
you're gonna
specific
find the
accounts.
dollar under the senior citizen. If you go down to senior citizens, it's probably documented under social services. Yep. So see, it's always been under the senior center, but the resident services coordinator line. We've had this person that took it over. It was great. We're so thankful. It was paid in the, as a stipend. But again, I work in a place where stipends come and stipends go every year, depending on need. And my sale here for the town to save this money is we now have a senior center community director. In every other town, their senior center director, community center director acts as this agent for the elderly. Andover kind of whips it up into this, trying to call it a couple different names because people weren't aware that this was what it was. So again, having done a lot of research, having talked to other senior center directors who are all municipal agents of the elderly, I think it's the perfect time for Andover to make the change. And while doing that, we can save this line of $7,500. Of course, this person doing it, thank you, thank you, thank you. You will continue doing it through June. That's my speech.
So if I could summarize what you're actually making the motion for. So
Yep.
you're making the motion to zero out the amount, the proposed budget for this line item 145-100 51000 resident services coordinator.
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
For next budget year. Thank you.
Does anybody second that motion?
Okay, I have a question on that.
Let's look for a second first, Louise. If anybody has a second.
All right.
I'll second it.
Okay, Kimberly, you're going to second it? Okay.
Yes, I will, because the position is already listed as a unpaid position in our charter. I'm going to support that change. I do appreciate the person that's been doing it though.
Okay, Louise, did you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I mean, would it be a two-part motion, saying to zero out that money, but to direct that responsibility to a certain person?
We can't direct the
That's not our
responsibility. That's the job of the
purview.
Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I did the research to find out how other towns handle the financial part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's up to the Board of Selectmen.
correct.
We don't fund this. They're gonna have to figure out how to get it done because it is a required position.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the Board of Finance?
So, I guess I would ask Eric, because I really don't know much about what tests, I'm sorry, what the director or the assistant director does. Do they have the capacity to take on that role? Because I believe that's what Joanne was really alluding to, was having that role be passed down to either the director or the assistant director role. So I guess I'm just wondering what the capacity is for that, either one of those positions to take on that role.
Eric, could you
If you could add any insight,
please
Eric, to
talk
that.
about that, if you'd like to?
Sure. So obviously, as a Board of Finance, you have the right to zero out any line item you want. And then ultimately, it's the Board of Selectmen and my job to figure out how to get the things that that person does accomplished. Are we going to be able to shift that to the director of the senior center? Absolutely not. You know, she's way overworked as it is. It's already a full-time position. Adding those tasks onto it, I believe that's a non-starter, because that means we're cutting too many other programs that she administers, because there just isn't enough time. As it is, this week, we submitted one of the 2 grants for senior transportation that we should have, because we ran out of time submitting the other one. That other one potentially would have been $12,000 to $15,000 back to the town. But we honestly didn't have the bandwidth to put out 2 grants in that period of time. So no, nor if you think about what the resident services coordinator does.
Can I interrupt just for
I
a
would like you to just let him finish speaking, Joanne. He's trying to
Let Eric finish.
let's let him finish speaking before
Oh,
we cut
I
him
was
off.
only gonna ask him a question about that. No problem, guys. No problem. Proceed.
So, and honestly, I really don't want to distract a resident or the senior center director dealing with hoarding situations and a bunch of the other things that the resident services coordinator does. You are correct in that the one position that the state mandates that the town has, the town charter does say that is a volunteer position. The town did that years ago in response to the state, you know, passing another unfunded mandate on the towns and requiring the towns to have that. You know, going back 5 years, we had a separate person that was doing the tasks for the resident service, what we're now calling the resident services coordinator. When that person was fired by the town, we made a decision to assign that for duties to the assistant assessor. In part because the assistant assessor was the best person to be dealing with the renter's rebates, which is one of the things that position coordinates anyway, because she already works in the agency that kind of oversees the renter's rebates. So from my perspective, right now, what we have is a good fit for the position. You know, but again, it's your call. You can certainly zero it out if you so choose. I don't know how we would go about filling that, but it's not going to be the senior center director.
Joanne, you had a question?
Thank you so much, Mark. I definitely didn't want to interrupt. I want Eric to say everything that they want to hear. I just wanted to let the board know that I spent my whole Sunday sending you all emails with a whole bunch of information of how I have been trying to, you know, present this, and I've talked about it in meetings and stuff. So I hope you took the time to read it because I wanted you to thoroughly have the background so that you would be prepared and know why I was asking for this. And I get that everyone's vision for a position is going to, and I respect everyone so much. That's why
if I'm going to say something or ask Eric a question, I'm definitely going to, you know, present the strong points of something too. None of this is easy. It's not personal at all. It's trying to come up with some savings and then doing a heck of a lot of research on what other towns do. So it's never easy doing things like this. And so that's why I sent you guys all that prep information so you would know for our additional meetings coming up, but it kind of came together with this. This is something we had to take care of at this meeting. And I don't mind if Eric's vision for, or our town administrator, I should say, vision for what a senior center, community center person should be. As you all remember, we had wanted it to be a full-time job anyways, and that's something that'll be discussed down the line. But I think that they do slant more to wanting the grant writing and everything, while every other town, which I've spoken to many of these senior center, they're all the municipal agent for the elderly, and I would have thought that was a no-brainer coming in. I think maybe our town had a little bit of, you know, we're a tiny town, as I like to call it, but we had a different vision for that. So again, he just had a different vision for it, but I thought this was a great place to get some cost savings there since we now have an additional person. So, and also allowing for this person to serve out the term, go with everything in the charter, not ruining anything that's already put in place and giving a lot of advance notice. So that's all.
Okay. Liz, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so I support this motion, and the reason I do is, well, first of all, as Joanne mentioned, the Board of Finance did authorize this as a full-time position last year.
No,
and
this is a different position we're talking about, right?
no, I'm talking
Are you
about
talking about okay.
the senior center position was
Yeah.
authorized, but it turned out not to be. Anyway, but my understanding is that we don't even have to deal with hoarding situations here. It's usually just referred to Eastern Highlands Health. That's how that is. That's my understanding from my research. And that renters rebates are generally have been handled by the assistant assessors in the past. So I don't know, however they want to figure out how to deal with this. It sounds like it's minimal, very minimal hours. And I'm in favor of saving the money on the stipend.
Other comments or questions from the Board of Finance? Okay. You know, I'm just going to say I will vote against it. I think it's a little risky for us to be eliminating funding for a position that is mandated. You know, we've heard that it wouldn't be easy to you know, redistribute this activity. I think we probably get a bargain for the money we spend on this. But that's my 2 cents. If none of the other members of the Board of Finance have any input, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. Okay, and we may need to do this individually, so I want to make sure I get it correctly. So I'm gonna go in order of my screen. Bill?
No.
Liz?
Aye.
Okay. Joanne?
Aye.
Okay. Louise?
I abstain from this.
Okay. Kim?
Yes.
Okay. Robert?
Nay.
Okay, so we have a tie. I'm going to vote no. Okay. The motion doesn't pass if we don't have a majority. So at this point, we'll consider the motion to not have passed.
I'd like to make another motion, please.
Okay, hold on. Is that you, Joanne? I'm
Yeah,
not seeing
yeah,
everybody.
when you're done.
Yep, go ahead.
So with that motion not passing, I'd like to amend, well, I'd like to introduce another motion to have this stipend be funded at the amount of 2,400.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
Reducing the stipend, please. Yes.
I'll second it.
Was that you, Liz?
Yeah, I'll second it because my understanding is that it is there are so minimal hours ever
Correct.
needed for this position, for what I understand. So for someone who is in a position who's already getting paid, that will be taking these same calls, will be taking calls during current work hours, as my understanding. It just doesn't.
Okay.
If it was something that she had to handle separately as a part-time, you know, like after hours, then absolutely, I would totally support the funding. But it's something that happens during the day, during the work days, and the time that is affected for this role is very minimal, as far as I've been, what I've learned in my research.
Okay. So just to regroup and make that clear, so the motion before the board is to fund this position at $2,400 annually as a stipend. Further discussion from the board members?
Yeah, I just want to say that thank you guys for, we've talked about this before where all those points have been brought up. Remember, when you have a stipend, you're not usually double dipping, but this stipend is allowed to double dip, so she doesn't have to increase her hours. It is, you know, with all the research, it's minimal work. And this would give money to that person of $200 a month. I think if they're going to keep that stipend in there, I think that's a fair amount of getting, you know, a little bump to do the extra work.
Okay. Further discussion from the board?
Mark, can I make one point?
Sure, Eric.
So right now, Coventry has the same position that the assistant assessor holds as the assistant assessor, that pays $7 an hour more than what we pay, and gives a bonus or a bump in salary as soon as that person completes the 6-month probationary period. You know, you're kind of playing with fire, because what you're gonna do.
Mark, can I ask
is you're
procedure
gonna
just
piss
because I don't
off
understand
the
since
longest serving person
Hold on,
left in the town hall, who is not paid the going rate for her
it's not
position.
personal. It's not
Another one's
personal.
available right next door. But, you know, you do have to think about that if you're gonna make that decision.
Okay,
That's it.
taken. Okay.
Mark, I just want
Carter.
clarification on procedure.
Yep.
So once the Board of Finance members that are volunteers here giving their time have made a motion and we're in the discussion mode, are we allowed to have, you know, I thought that we were talking about it
Yeah,
amongst ourselves.
we ask Eric questions in middle emotions all the time, and
I know,
sometimes
but we didn't that time. We
No.
did not ask for additional information. I feel
No.
like it's fine, but I just feel like we have a two-way street sometimes, and I'm just trying to
Okay.
learn all the rules.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else from the Board of Finance members?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind as well that the charter does say it is an uncompensated
Volunteer.
position. And also the town of Coventry is 4 times the size. They also they have a ginormous budget. I know it well. My son is dealing with it and arguing with them right now. So they have a huge budget. They have a large population, much bigger than us.
It's really not personal too. It's really hard when we try to keep the person out of it, because this is not easy work to do. This is not easy work to do. You know, making all these calls, making sure my facts are right, making sure that I'm going to present myself in a professional way, and then have to get this information out where you know it's not easy, but you're trying to save the taxpayers a little bit of money because we did add other people. And then we get this back, you know, from a source that I wouldn't think would be going in that direction. That's all. We've got to keep the personal out of it. We're trying to
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
just save the town some money. And if I have come up, you know, all of us, whoever has done some research on the side or taken the time to read my emails and the hours that were put into it, you know, it's not off the cuff. Thank you.
I have a
Anything else,
question.
Board of Finance members, Louise?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a question. Is it at all possible to look at the possibility of maybe paying that person per hour?
Well, again, I think we're straying into territory that is
Mhm.
a little bit outside of our purview. You know, we can
Yeah.
fund the budget, we can make a recommendation that the budget line items be funded at particular areas, and therefore, obviously, we're influencing policy when we do that. But I don't think we can do anything really directing or requesting. I mean, you can go to a Board of Selectmen meeting and ask that they make a change, but they're really the ones that would need to make that change, I think.
Okay, understood.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
That's a
Let
good
me ask you
idea,
one more
Lee.
question. Yeah, let
Kim?
me ask one more. Oh,
I'm
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Liz. You got, is he up there?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Eric, did he disappear?
I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Okay, you popped over on a different screen.
Yeah.
Do you have a log? I mean, is there a log that shows the number of calls and the, you know, that is having to be dealt with to maybe support that a little more?
Do I have an exact number of people that request services? No, I don't.
mean, it seems like
Nobody's ever
there's
asked me for it before. So that's
Hmm.
not something, you know, and it is a job that's very episodic. You know, the problem comes in is that in the end, what you're doing is you're transferring the responsibility back for running the hoarding task force and a few other things back to me, because there is no other, you know, probably town employee that you're going to get to do it. And I will do that. It's not like I'm not going to do it, but, you know, my time's pretty valuable.
And I want to make it clear that we're not personnel, we're not HR. We are only the financial, like Mark said. So we just are looking for cost savings for the town and did a little research to come up with, you know, something. So understood. I know Liz just asked that, but you know, I get back to, I've learned through my 4 years on this board what I can talk about and what I can't, and I try to really respect it. But this is just a simple funding, saving the town money. You know, asking for all the data so that we could support it. One thing we can say is every single town has, in Marlboro's the perfect one. If anyone saw the River East a couple of weeks ago, they had a great article about this person that I actually talked to, and she came on board. She's a full-time person. They have their website that has all the resources. You pretty much direct someone to a website or where to call. You know, is there a call every day? And I'm not pretending to know everything. Again, as a volunteer that spends a lot of time trying to save the town money or offer some cost savings, whether it gets rejected or not. It was just an idea. But usually there's websites, there's things like that. This is a fiscal thing. It's not a personal thing. It's not a person thing. So.
Back to the specific motion. Are there any more
Yeah.
comments or questions? from
Can
the
you
board?
just remind me, since we've been talking about it for so long, what the figure for the motion was? Was it 2,400?
2,400, right?
Well, I say, so just to be clear, it's like a $3,700 cut from the proposal. Correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Understood. Thank you for that.
One more question, real quick.
Yep,
Does
Liz?
this also does Murph and other things get added onto that amount as well?
Correct. The total for this stipend as it sits is $7,400 that it's costing the town currently. So the MRF would go down, but you know, the 61 is that's a good point, Liz. I don't know
Yeah,
what
so
the
it's not,
total, yeah,
it's not just this line level, it's also,
right.
it affects, that way. Okay, I just wanted to, because I thought that was the case, but I wanted to verify.
It's connected to the MRF.
Yeah, it's connected to MRF. It's connected
Although the
to the
memorandum,
indirect costs. And
Right,
it's
right.
also connected to, no, it's not connected to healthcare because that's already fully. So those two, the roughly 7% that the town pays in indirects for Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff, plus the town contribution to MRF.
Right. And sorry, just to follow up, I thought that the MOA said that it shouldn't receive any other benefits. But again, I'm not pulling hairs right now. I just am looking at the document, but I'll keep the motion as is.
Further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 That's Liz, Joanne, and
Kim.
did I lose Kim? Okay, okay. And I'm sorry, I should have gone in order just to make it clear. Bill?
No.
Okay, Louise? Louise, you're muted.
Louise, you're muted.
Do you have to unmute her because of the?
No, I
Is it-
asked her to unmute.
It might take a minute for that to show
Yeah.
up.
We're just having a little bit more technical difficulties than usual is all.
Rob, I'll just go to you.
Nay.
Okay, I'm gonna vote no also, so we need Louise's vote.
Well, right now it's a tie, so it wouldn't pass, would it? Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
Never
if
mind.
she voted yes, it would
That's
pass.
Right.
Never mind.
Exactly.
Never mind,
It's all
sorry.
about the question of abstention.
You sent her a text. I'm trying to see if she's,
You did, okay.
oh, she
yeah,
said she
no.
can't unmute. Oh, should I ask her for a vote or is that not
Yeah,
official?
can you ask
You
her
hear
if she's
me?
gonna abstain
You know?
again? I mean, oh, there we go.
There she is.
Here we go.
Boy,
Sometimes it takes a
technology.
minute.
I'm really on the fence with this. I'm gonna have to abstain on this.
Okay, Louise abstains, the motion fails again, or this motion fails, I should say. Okay, thanks, everybody. Sorry about the delay. Okay, well, we can entertain additional motions or discussion of other line items.
I have more. I'm sure people would want to hear from me again. But I just want to bring up another one that I think is a problem for the town. So
Go ahead.
they can fix it. I'm trying to figure out where it is. So unfortunately, this one is another stipend. And if you could go up to the, well, this could be a very, a problem. So the other one, I had a lot of backup on it. So I'm sorry, Mark, can you go, you'll have to go to the top, go to, kind of go where the administrator is, and we'll go down from there and I'll find the line. Okay. All right. And this one's very, very painful for me. Like if everyone wanted to say how painful everything was before, because this is the hardest worker that I know that I've come into contact with, but I think that this is going against union principles and I don't think you can do this. So, and if someone wants to provide me with something that says it is, so it's under the treasurer/financial tab of the 4137 accounts. We're looking at the 109/101-51000, the assistant treasurer stipend. Go all the way over and let's look at the reason. So I'm not talking
I'm
about
sorry.
wage.
I clicked on it, but it says
Okay, there
requesting
you
an
go.
additional raise for stipend.
Yep, this could mean a lot of trouble for the town as far as bargaining outside of the union. without having any kind of agreement and without anybody else. Once there's a union contract and there's no existing things, you're not allowed to bargain with one employee. And if you bargain with one employee, I mean, I didn't plan on, it could be serious trouble. I've looked into this, so unfortunately, there's other questions that are going to come into play later. I am looking to zero out for the town that stipend of $5,000 in that line right now.
Okay,
Showing the
so-
line? I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the
So
line.
Joanne,
Is this? Sorry, go on,
it's the
Mark. I
line I
apologize.
highlighted here. It's 109-101-51000. Assistant treasurer stipend.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is. I'm
bargaining
sorry.
outside of union.
Yeah, so that's Joanne's concern. We talked about this in other
Yeah.
venues.
Right, but there's a
Um,
whole nother thing that we're still going to talk about, but this one is separate from that too. But
First,
we
I
won't-
want to see if there is a second to this motion.
Sorry, yep.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. So other discussion, questions?
So this particular one, is this the one we've talked about before?
Yes.
Well, Rob, if I may,
Yes.
Yeah.
there's some question about some other things, about published rates and stuff like that. We're not going into that now. This one, it did come up. I mean, we're looking at something that clearly says what it's for on this document. So
Right.
this is what we're going from.
Yep. No,
So
I just
I
wanted
am
to make sure
dealing
that
with
I'm not
it.
confusing.
Yeah.
It's literally just informational, Joanne. I just want to make
Oh,
sure
no,
that
no,
I
no.
am
I'm not even,
placing this
Let her
correctly
talk.
in my mind.
Right.
This is the one that we talked about fairly extensively before. Is that correct? This particular one.
right, but there's more to it than just that. So it's hard to, but yeah, I mean, this particular
Yeah.
one was talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And I recall, I recall a discussion, and I share your concern.
Thank you.
I do not want our town opened up to a lawsuit. But the tricky bit here, and this is the thing that has me all tied up, is that, Board of Selectmen should address this. We could cut the funding out. I don't know if maybe that solves the problem kind of in an indirect way. That's the thing that's got me kind of hung up. But again, I would reiterate that I share your concern. I don't think this is necessarily kosher, and we could be putting ourselves at risk of something that I'd really hate to see us have to deal with. So I totally get what you're trying to do here. I don't know.
Mark, is it all right if I talk
ideally,
for a second?
Well,
please.
let Rob finish. Rob, do you have more?
No, I'll cede my time, please, by all means, Scott.
So
wait,
you guys
wait a minute,
remember
wait a
the
minute. Who's
conversation?
asking?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
wait.
I can't. Hold on, stop, everyone, please.
Yeah.
I can't see who's asking to speak.
That was me, Scott Person. Mark.
Okay, all right, Scott, I'm going to give you a couple minutes. We got to get to this point. It's a pretty simple question, and I'm
Right.
going to say it's the Board of Finance members too. It's pretty straightforward. We discussed this at length in various venues. So I think I'd really like to call the question, but go ahead, Scott.
Okay, so this came up earlier in one of our discussions to the Board of Selectmen that Christine was going to be taking over more responsibilities from the treasurer. And that was the reason why she was going to get the extra money. And when the treasurer leaves, Christine would be there to take over that position. So I just want to give you a little backstory on that. That's all.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
Mark, if I could, and I
Yep.
just want everyone to know, we have some matters that we'll discuss in private that we're not even bringing out right now. I'm clearly talking about just this stipend is not the way to go. I get, and as you guys know, I think she's wonderful and probably worth every bit of money that people want to give her. I just want the town to operate correctly. You can't just decide to do this. That's my opinion.
Other
And I'm only
questions from
talking
Board of
about the
Finance?
stipend. Yeah.
Call the question.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna put in my 2 cents. I think removing this would be the incorrect thing to do. You know, it's to the Board of Selectmen to make the proper financial, and Eric to make the proper, you know, financial and personnel decisions. I think it's absolutely incumbent upon us to raise issues where we see potential problems.
Do you want me to
we've
publicly
done
say
that
the
for
other
sure.
ones?
Oh, hold on.
Hold on,
Yeah.
one at a
quickly.
time.
Yeah, so, you know, I think we've done that, and we're going to continue to do that because it's important. But I don't want to tie anyone's hands, and you know, this is not the final budget. You know, this just gives us the opportunity to move forward with this budget. We can always remove it later. We can remove it in the town meeting. The Board of Selectmen can choose not to fund it, you know, even though it's in the thing. Doesn't mean they have to spend it.
Guys, it's Joanne again. I just want to reiterate, there's a much bigger problem than just this stipend. So I don't want you all to get confused with, you know, there's kind of a couple issues. This is the one I'm publicly talking about.
Okay.
So, but if this is the way, hey, I go with the board. I've done my thing. My soul will be clear with finding a mistake. You know, in thinking this could be a problem and operating outside of unions with doing this. If you don't, I know that it's our charge to look at this spreadsheet that we're given and decide what we want to keep on it. You know, there's backup to everything else that was provided. This one, we don't have any backup, and I'm just looking at the reason that's there. And I don't think it's a legitimate reason, especially when it's a union employee. If it was a non-union employee, I feel like there's a little more. That's all. You've all said your piece. I've said my piece.
Yes, you have.
I'm clear. I did my thing with bringing it forward.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and call for a vote if nobody's got anything different or something they want to add. Okay, going down in order, Bill,
No.
Joanne,
Yeah, based on what I just said, yes, I'd like to remove it
okay,
for the town's
Louise?
sake.
I would say yes, because that would force the issue to have the overall issue looked at from the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen.
Okay, Rob,
I'm gonna abstain.
okay, Liz, Liz,
I'm gonna vote yes because I'm concerned about the bargaining part of it, if that's true and if it's a concern. Because of that, I'm saying yes. Perhaps a conversation can happen with the Board of Selectmen later and get that straightened out so we can know for sure before the budget's finalized.
okay. Just making the point that this can't be funded if we remove it and pass it on to a town for budget. Kim?
I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay, and I will vote no, so that leaves 4 yeses, 2 nos, and 1 abstention, so that motion passes. So that is this line right here, and we will zero that out.
You're idiots.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Hey, Mark, I just have a follow-up. Just remember, and then I did send everybody an email. I might as well say it publicly. We are requesting an executive session with the Board of Selectmen at their next meeting. So there will be a few items discussed. This was just one I wanted to address today.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Other motions or line items to discuss with the board?
I just wanted to come back to one thing. I don't know that we sorted it out after we talked about it in the public hearing. The money for the software, where was that? For the, I think it was senior center software. was like $4,000. Was that correct? Oh, 1,200.
That's, you know, I don't know that it was in our original thing. It was zeroed in the original estimate here.
Oh,
Or-
okay.
No, maybe not. So that was zeroed there.
Okay, I guess, sorry, I apologize. I didn't be
Yep.
confused, maybe getting a little tired.
mean-
I'll let it go. Never mind.
Okay, any other items the board wants to look at?
Mark, can we see where, well, I do have some concerns with the spreadsheet. This is Joanne again.
Mhm.
And maybe Eric can answer if he thinks that it's, I'm hearing some background noise. Is anyone else hearing
I
that?
think it's Louise.
Yes.
I know. It's almost like a little dog, you know,
think-
barking.
Is that Louise?
I think it's Louise. If she could mute temporarily, that'd be.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
I needed
I think I
humor.
got it. Thank
Oh
you.
my goodness.
I got it.
Okay. You know, obviously I was going to ask where our bottom line was, look at the mill rate, look at what it was, but I thought of another line I wanted to look at too.
Yeah, so the taxation total is down to 2.0%, which is where we started.
Right.
I think the mill rate might be slightly like 4 point. It's another tenth
It's
of a percent.
higher
maybe.
than I wrote. It was like 32 point. And then can you go up, Mark, a little bit? Because there's a total in the corner that, okay. So the spending is up. This is the line that I always look at in case the public cares. For this part is the 219, 590. So the expenses for this year, from what we've cut so far, we will have an increase of 219,000. I can't see it all, but 590 something. There. So we also have the thought, when we get to, if the point that anyone else was going to make some suggestions for cuts, that we could throw more of the fund balance that Eric's suggestion to bring things down. Just a thought.
Well, I think we're at a 2% increase with taxation. I mean, I don't see any reason to deplete our fund to reduce that. We're well below the rate of inflation. And obviously, you know, the townspeople can certainly
Speak, right.
you know, make motions to reduce things, but
Mm-hmm. All right. No, I was just bringing that up as a thought too, because
well, everything should be considered. Yeah.
right. So
I
I'm
mean,
just
that's
gonna,
just my personal view. I wouldn't change anything there.
right. I know he put the 40, you know, I think we were standard with 150 for a while, and he put the 190 there because last year we were 40,000 over. So I think he put it back in for that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
just kind of a one-time thing.
Right. Oh, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Oh, you know what? The other thing I was wondering is where would we see the returned money from the sale of the equipment, from the town truck guys, what do you call them? DPW guys. Is that reflected in here anywhere?
If anywhere, it'd probably be in revenue, but Eric, I don't know if we probably aren't going to show it separately unless you have a net amount somewhere.
It's not, because it does not affect next year's budget. That would affect essentially revenues in the last year's budget.
Okay, so where did it go? I guess is my question.
Goes into the general fund balance.
General fund balance. Okay. Is that a tab in here, the general fund balance?
No, it is not. Because the general fund balance for this budget, we use a general fund balance number that comes from the previous audit. So I gave you the cheat sheet, which is what the unexpended fund balance is as of the financial statement that was relative to July 1st, 2024. So those expenditures, presuming this year we are under budget. That would show up in the next fiscal statement next year, anything that got returned to the general fund balance from the sale of equipment.
Okay.
That doesn't show up in this budget.
All right, thank you. Thank you. That makes sense.
Okay, would the board care to look at any other line items?
I had a question for Eric, if I may, Mark.
Sure, go ahead.
Eric, I know I learned a lot last week when we found out that the fire department and the library, I believe, take care of their own budgets and cut their checks. Do they, and it's just, if we could scroll down to the library, Mark, just so that I understand, I might as well. Because I think there's only one line for the library in there.
There's two lines.
Right, one
There's
is
a
salary.
line and there's an
Mhm.
operating budget, yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, right. So one operating, it's getting blocked for me for some reason. There we go. Library. So the library payroll is self-explanatory, and then library operations, the proposed budget is very similar to the year before. Do they provide a breakdown to you? I know we asked the same thing about the fire department, so I thought it was fair to ask about this.
Yes, they do, and that should have been, you
Is
should
it
have
in
had
there?
that. That is in the information that was in the shared drive that you had
Thank
access to.
you. I must have went by, because I went in there and I tried to look at that. All right, just a question. So they cut their own checks? They have a checkbook? Okay, none of that runs through your approval or, okay.
Well, what runs through my approval is the check every quarter to the library.
Got it. Okay. No, I just want to make sure I learn from this. Every year I get a little bit more. And then can we go up to the fire department one more time, Mark?
Yep. Hang on a second.
Thank you. Yeah.
Must be going down. There's the fire department, fire commission.
Okay, so, and I know we went over this last week and we talked, okay, I just wanted to see the dollar amount. So that's 167,850 or 150, 167.
350.
350, yep. My computer screen is,
350.
there we go. All righty.
350,
And
not
then
850.
Yep.
167. And then one more, because I know we're coming to the end, but if we could go down to the public works again, I know that's one of our bigger budgets. Okay, I just wanted to. Oh. There we go. All right, so it has all the lines and then the bottom line there. Mark, are we allowed to make a motion, just on the bottom line and then let a department decide where they'd like to make any?
I don't think that would be appropriate. I think we need to control the budget line items at this point. Remember, they can always do an department transfer between accounts if that's the kind of thing you want them to be able to do, if you want them to decide and you just want to take a number out.
Well, only because I had tried to take, and again, I'm only working in support of what I think is right. So it's not easy, but I tried to make a motion and it failed in a prior meeting when I was trying to take a little. So I thought maybe it would be fair to try to just take a little off the bottom line, whatever I would propose, and then allow them to decide. That was my thought, and being a little more. So let me. All right, this is the last one from me for the night. I'm going to go ahead and propose that we decrease the supplies for Public Works by 2,500. That's my motion.
Okay, does anybody want to second that motion? That's account number 301-620-56010. Do we have a second? Guess I'm not hearing a second.
That's fine. I just do my due diligence. Thank you, Mark.
Yep. Well, I guess at this point, then I would say, unless somebody has another line item they want to take a look at and address, does somebody want to make a motion to accept this budget as is, as the Board of Finance recommended budget to go to town meeting?
I so move.
Can I
second.
ask a question?
Well, let's have the motion. Rob's got a motion on the thing. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, Bill
Can I have
seconds. Okay,
discussion
go ahead.
now?
Was that you, Liz, or asking a question?
Yeah, discussion. So we have never discussed the AES budget, and that's been brought to our attention. I would like to talk about it. Does accepting this preclude us from talking about it?
No.
So if we accept this, we could, I'm able to talk about the AES budget?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
You can
Okay.
talk
I don't see
about
why
it.
not.
I guess
Can't
the
change
question is-
anything. Can't do anything about
Well, hold on. So, yeah, if you want to, I guess, change it in some way, then that's more. But just talking about it, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about it because I thought we got a legal opinion that we were allowed to make recommendations to lower a bottom line if we felt it was appropriate.
Right. We don't have line item authority, but we do have the ability to say, we think this should come in lower.
Well, we can.
I don't know that we can cut it, but we can suggest it.
There's,
I would like to hear what Liz has to say.
yep.
Oh, I
Go ahead, Liz.
apologize. I didn't mean to cut in. I apologize. Sorry.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
two.
So I know I was annoying everybody earlier when I was on my fact-finding mission, and I appreciate everybody's patience with all that. But really, I'm not sitting on this board to rubber stamp anything. And there's really very little transparency in numbers and information on the AES website. So I tried to do my best to gather information, and obviously was faced with some pushback. So what I was able to gather, I gathered it on my own. I've gone to other towns' websites and found a whole lot more information, so much easier information to find. And I just feel like the townspeople don't have the information they need to know if they should even support the budget or not. That being said, I do have a couple things I wanted to share, some images I wanted to share that I had put together. And if you guys would indulge me, I'd like to send it to Eric, and then he could present it.
Yeah, you could also
That'd be
send
okay?
it to me, but yeah.
Oh, or I could send it to you. Okay.
You know, I think I'm gonna, I don't know. Does the board, I mean, again, I'm gonna make a statement that's just kind of a personal thing. I am pretty clear on what the charter says, so I would not be at all comfortable with changing the thing, because it's clear that the charter says that we can't change the Board of Education budget, just comment on it. So, you know, I wouldn't vote to change it. I've got to get up very, very early for a flight, like 3 a.m. So what I would prefer that we do, and I'm just throwing it out there, this board does not exist for my benefit. But I would prefer that, and unless you want to make a motion to change this budget, could we vote on to move this budget forward to the meeting? Vote on the motion at hand, and then if it fails, we'll continue with that, or we can talk about it after.
Mark,
I would make the motion that
go ahead, Bill.
We already have a
I would
motion.
make the motion that we accept the budget as presented, the budget that we have the authority to act on right now.
Well, we've already got the motion in front of us, right? So we're at the discussion point now. Because Rob made the motion and you seconded, I think.
And I seconded it.
Well, and I mean, that's fine, because we
So
still
we're-
have time we didn't
Right.
have time
It's
tomorrow.
a
if we
separate
wanted to
item,
make-
though.
Yep. It's a separate item. We have
The
more time
AES budget
tomorrow.
is a separate item from this budget.
Well, if we vote to, like, to be clear on the procedure, if we vote to accept this as the recommended budget, there won't be a meeting tomorrow.
Guys, can I say something too? We're in discussion.
Yep.
The only thing that I want is respect for someone that's put a lot of time and effort into whatever Liz is going to tell us tonight. I mean, I feel like I'm on the receiving end of that sometimes, and I put a lot of effort into things, and then everybody wants to move on, and I get that. We're all very busy people. We have busy schedules, but at what point can she just, even if she doesn't present, can she talk to whatever? I just want to show her some respect.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Liz says, I'm not comfortable with this budget, I think we should reduce the Board of Education line item. And I think we have the authority to do that and explain, that's her thinking. Then we should certainly discuss that as part of this acceptance, this motion that's before us.
Right. I just want her to be able to say what she wants to say. And I think that's just respect for the questions that she's asking, because I think she's, I'm just being an observer right now. And so that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's relevant to the motion that we have in
The
front of us.
motion on the floor.
That's really what I'm trying to do.
And she did try to ask. She asked it very politely at the beginning. If she says yes, does this mean she can't speak anymore? I'm just being a human. I just want, and you are too, Mark. Thank you. But and everybody is. That's what I'm addressing right now, is her concern that she wants to just say something.
Yeah. So my question is, if I say yes to this motion and it passes, then I can't say anything more about my thoughts about the AES budget.
Well, we could continue the discussion. I think we could certainly have more discussion in this meeting, but the next step in the budget process would be to go, that wouldn't change the recommended budget.
Okay, so if this motion went down, then what I have to put forward could possibly change the bottom line of the AES budget if it was so motioned and agreed to, correct?
It could.
Am I making sense?
I think we'd face a legal challenge, honestly, because that would be in contradiction to the charter. But it could.
Seems like the charter's kind of muddy.
I don't think so. I think the charter's pretty clear. It says the Board of Financial Public Hearing, blah, blah, blah. The Board in preparing the budget, the board may add to, delete from, or eliminate requests made by the various departments, offices, and agencies, except that the board may only comment and make recommendations on the budget requests of the local Board of Education. To me, that's pretty unambiguous, that the intention of the charter is that the Board of Education sets the school budget for purposes of the town meeting. It doesn't mean that the town meeting can't change the amount. That's really, I think, where the board contemplates that the town budget meeting is where the Board of Ed changes to the Board of Ed budget can be made.
Okay.
That's
All right.
I think, to me, it's pretty clear, and I wouldn't.
As long as I'm able,
different.
as long as I'm able to make my spiel, then I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
Because at least if people are watching and they want more information, they'll get this information and then they can do what they want with it at the town meeting.
Yeah, I think that's important.
I'm okay with that. Okay. All I ask is that I don't get rushed. That's all I ask.
Yeah, understandably, and I didn't mean to rush you, but I do want to make sure the discussion is pertinent to the motion that we have in front of us there.
So Mark, I have a question.
Yeah, Louise?
We as a Board of Finance members are also part of the public, so we can make whatever suggestions we want at the town meeting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if everybody heard her, it was a little broken up, but Louise made the point that as members of the public, we on the Board of Finance can also make comments at the public meeting, or a motion for that matter.
All right.
Jay Ellis.
That's good. That's all. I just wanted you to have your moment to speak and
you.
whatever you want to
my
present. You know, everybody puts a lot of effort into things, so glad you'll
Okay.
have your moment, Liz.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Eric has his hand up.
Yeah. Oh, give it, Eric, what do you have? Let's make
So
it
just
quick.
real quick, I had given the Board of Finance about 4 meetings ago a copy of the town attorney's official opinion on this. His opinion is that the Board of Finance, and I'm not a legal scholar, but in his opinion, you can, and I'll just read the last paragraph. In conclusion, my answer to your specific questions are that yes, the Board of Finance has the ability to modify the bottom line of BOS budget, and any such adjustment must be voted by the Board of Finance before the combined budget is sent to the voters for the annual town budget meeting. You know, and obviously he was talking about a different date since this opinion was 3 years old or 4 years old. So that's just a point of information. I'm not trying to say whether you should or shouldn't.
Yep.
cut
Understood.
anything.
Yeah, in my view, and I'll just state my view is that the charter is pretty clear. Regardless of the Connecticut general statutes and the intention of, you know, in general powers granted to Board of Finance, the view of the charter is that the Board of Finance should not be the determining authority for the Board of Ed's line item. So that's what I base it on. Yeah, I think the town meeting is the appropriate place for that, for the charter.
Okay, let's, you know, let's move forward with this motion and then, I'm happy to give my spiel.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. The motion before us is to accept the budget as it is presented to us tonight, as with changes we made, as the final recommended budget to go to the town meeting next Wednesday. All those in favor? I'm going to go individually just because it's too complicated with the way we are. I can't see who's got their hands up and everything. Bill?
Yes.
Liz?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Joanne?
Yes.
Louise?
I didn't hear Joanne's.
Joanne said yes.
Yes, I'm gonna abstain at this moment.
What?
I'm gonna abstain.
She's
Okay,
abstaining.
Kim?
I'm going to say no.
Rob?
Yes.
Okay, and I am a yes. Wait, so we have 4 yeses, 2 nos, and 1 abstention. As I read it, so the motion passes. This will be the budget that we present to the town and the board of, or in the town budget meeting
Town
next
budget
month.
meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
However, yeah, we should definitely hear out, you know, as we discussed.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna it's maybe a little bit where we are. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and let any other board members make any final comments, including Liz. So we'll give Liz the floor. Again, I think because we've performed the main meeting that we have to today, I think I'm gonna step out and hand control the meeting over to Joanne, if that's okay, Joanne?
Yeah, I've never controlled the meeting before. Is
Well, just in terms of,
Oh, the
Eric
talking?
can manage the
Oh,
Zoom,
thank you.
but
Of course.
I really wish you would stay and listen to this. I'm a little disappointed. I mean,
3 a.m.
yeah, I appreciate it. I've got to travel in the morning, and I promise you I will review the video once it's available. So it's an area of concern to me. I will say that.
okay.
Yeah, I have some
What's it?
concerns over the school budget myself.
Okay, I just emailed you that document, so I guess
Okay.
you're not the person I should have emailed it to.
Well, let's go ahead and start. I'll see.
Well, if you want to email it to Joanne or I
Or
can just
is
forward
Yeah,
it.
she may not be able to share it. It's
Eric-
Can Eric present it?
just the one document, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Email it
couple
to me and
pages.
I'll share it.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you,
forward
Mark,
it to
for
you right
turning
now,
it
Eric.
over to me, and I'll do the directing like you said. That would be great if you could, because Eric can present your presentation, Liz.
Yeah,
or-
let Eric, let
Yeah.
Eric go ahead.
And
You're
then
gonna
I'm
did
happy
you,
to interject, and I think it's important that everyone has their time to speak or, make their motions, whether they pass or don't.
Absolutely. And I didn't mean to come in and try to sound like I was coming in over the top or anything. It just, it's been a week, as we say, as Joanne
No.
said last week for herself. So.
Yes, absolutely. Last week was a week, but we're here
Okay,
now.
I
Eric, I
believe,
just-
is that what you
Yep.
see is what I'm sharing? Is that what you're looking for?
Yep. So I just wanted, to me, it's really important that we are honoring the taxpayers and making sure that we are providing, that we're funding certain areas of the town appropriately for the needs of the town. One of the narratives that I had heard quite a bit was that the school is just growing exponentially and there's big concerns about the growth of the school. But I do want it to be known that the preschool is the driver of the growth. And the preschool has been opened up to non-Andover students. So I wanted to address that so that the taxpayers knew that. The preschool now represents 25% of the enrollment of the school. And this chart here is a high level, just high level shows K through 6 on the top line, and any potential magnet students that might be in there. Preschool, you can see how the preschool has grown. A decision was made at some point to add non-Andover students, and I think the intention was because they could make more tuition money, which is what I was told. That decision was made in an executive session, so nobody really knows exactly what the discussion was around that. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Slide page. So this is just more of a breakdown. People were asking how large the classes were. Actually, this doesn't show the number of classes, but it kind of breaks it down a little more. And I can make this available to anybody who wants it. Just if people want to know really what the enrollment of the school is. The general fund is what we should be concerned about, K through 6, because we're told that the preschool is self-sufficient. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. And I wanted to highlight that again, it is 25% of our overall enrollment. And this is not about not wanting to fund the school. I'll just say it's about funding it appropriately so the kids get what they need and the taxpayers' wallets are honored. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And I think the next one's, okay, so this is the one that's most important. And you guys might want to zoom in on this one.
Yeah, it would be helpful if we could zoom in. I can barely
Alright.
see it.
Alright,
What'd you
okay.
say?
Make it a
There
little.
you go.
Nice.
So
That's
we
better.
can look
Thank you.
we can look at the top line first. The top line basically is the budget going back to the last year ending 2024. That was the adopted budget. And I wanted to highlight that they had an over 10.5% surplus. And that's astounding. I think the reason for the surplus is over budgeting, excessive budgeting. The Board of Finance made an agreement with the Board of Ed that they would we would take their surplus and put it into an AES capital fund for very much needed capital projects. There's no doubt that the projects need to be done. But on top of that, they get to keep the first 2% into their non-lapsing. So that's $84,695. So adding on to last year's budget, we gave them a 2.6% increase, and here's their current adopted budget, 4.348 million. And then they're requesting 8.76 for next year's budget. So going down, can you go down to the next line, please? I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. I don't like presenting. Nope. Next
Doing a good
line, not
job,
next
by the
page.
way.
Oh, sorry.
Right there.
Right there?
Yep. So I look at this and I'm like, what does a school really need to run? And in my estimation, what they needed to run in 2024, financially, what they needed to run was exactly what they spent, which was $3,378,151.31. That's what they needed. This is a projection based on that number as a baseline. So if you look at that number and say we approved the 3%, actually 3% for the next year, they would have gotten 3.902 million, 825. And say we said, fine, you can have your whole 8.76%, and we added that on to next year, the total would be 4.244 million. My point is, I'm sure in this current year that we're in right now, there's going to be another surplus. I think first of all, no one's going to accept that 8.76% increase. I think they probably put that in there hoping for half, and I'm not even saying that they shouldn't hire the teachers that they want. I understand those other two classes are a little large, but I think they can probably afford it with what they have. And I know that will be disputed, but if you look at this projection, there are surpluses in every year. And I just think what they're asking for is way too much. I personally feel that a 2% increase for them will get them what they need and be able to hire their teachers. On top of that, they now have a 2% non-lapsing fund that has $261,925 in it. If they run into trouble, they have that money. Plus, there are grants. There are grants every single year. If you scroll down, I'll show you the history of the grants. And I know they're going to say that you can't count on them. Well, let me show you the history. You can count on a good amount of them. I took these off of the website. It's a public website where you can research all this stuff. The pre-K grants are the Smart Start and the early, I forget what it's called, but that's what the grants have been through the past couple of years. And here's the miscellaneous grants. The grants will come in, and I don't think the grants are factored into their revenue when they create a budget. And I think that's why we get to the position at the end of the year where there's money left over, and historically there's a spending spree to try to spend it down as much as you can. And I don't think this school is unique to that. I think it's probably standard. You use it or you lose it, right? So I'm not really even criticizing that. And then the last slide that I have here, I'll just let you look at this real quick, is just to show that I pulled the per pupil expenditures for the state of Connecticut and just kind of skinnied it down to our area just to show where Andover stands with our neighbors, our neighboring towns. So I just feel like to continue to build a budget based on your current year's budget is just compounding every year. You're compounding the increase every year. I don't think it's honest, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to the taxpayers. And I was honestly wanting to share this information for quite a while, and I waited because I was kind of advised to kind of hold off. And I really was under the assumption that we would have the ability to affect their bottom line. So if anybody has any questions, or you want to look at that other slide with the baseline projection, I'm happy to ask questions.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So the only thing that I would comment on that is a little different than what you said is I have a different take on the grants and the surpluses. Basically, my take is that AS does a good job of bringing in grant money, that I think they appropriately can't assume they'll get. I understand exactly what you're saying, that they are pretty consistently bringing it in. If it were true that they went on a spending spree at the end of the year, I don't think you'd see the surpluses we've been seeing. So, on the one hand, I understand exactly your point, which is that they've been coming in under budget kind of consistently because of grant money. Really, I honestly think that's a good chunk of why. And then they take that money and they put it in the 2% non-lapsing. But I don't think that they tend to, at the end of the year, frantically buy a bunch of stuff just because they can to do their budget. And I see that in the business world, use it or lose it is absolutely a thing. I don't really think AES does that. I understand.
I know, yeah, I know they've done it. I've heard them say it in a meeting. But go ahead.
Oh, really?
Go ahead. Yeah, I have. Go ahead. You can continue. I don't mean to interrupt you because
No.
go ahead.
No.
I'm
it's
sorry.
fine, it's
I
fine.
shouldn't have interrupted you, but
I
I
was
have.
giving
Yeah.
no, it's okay, Liz.
Yeah. Okay.
I could be wrong. It was my impression that basically what they've been doing is saving up money, really more than spending it down. But the truth is, as you've pointed out, and this is fairly obvious to those of us who've been on the board for a few years now, they have several years in a row now come in with surpluses. That's true. There's no two ways about that. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to say, the grant money thing is a tricky thing. Assuming you're going to get the grants versus saying, well, look, we get them every year, but we don't know exactly how much. There's some play in that. I think there's reasonable people could differ. That's all. I'll stop there because I don't want to ramble.
Okay. Yeah.
And Liz,
I just
oh,
feel
go ahead.
this 10% surplus. I think the reason we're seeing this surplus is they understood that there was a deal that they could have the money into the capital fund. So it behooved not to spend money at the end of the year. And that's fine because I know there's capital projects that need to be taken care of and the school needs to be maintained. And I'm all supportive of maintaining the school and giving them what they need. I'm just saying that if there's that surplus, knowing those facts, I think there's probably more of a surplus each year than we really know about. And because of that, I feel like it's unfair to, well, first of all, to accept the 8% budget. I think it's crazy talk, but I'm not even arguing that they need the 2 extra teachers. I just think that they can do what they need to do with the money they have. And I just know that there's a lot of people that are struggling financially, and everybody is having to tighten their belts. And we as a town Board of Finance are trying to show some respect for that and trying to tighten the town's belt a little bit. I think that AES should do so as well.
Liz, I mean, I didn't want to interrupt you or whatever. I always appreciate someone that puts a lot of work into something when they're on a board or, so thank you for taking the time to put this together. I think it's important that all of us are heard and our opinions are out there. You know, that's why we ran for a board like this. We all don't have to see eye to eye or agree on every single thing. I mean, tonight, you know, is an example of that. You know, we're all going to continue to follow what we think is the right thing to do and put it out there. So, does anyone have questions for Liz on this presentation that she put together? It's hard because we're in this different mode, so I can't see people.
I don't have any, Joanna, can I speak for a minute? It's Kim.
Of course.
I don't have any questions, Liz. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate this presentation. I have combed through the Board of Education budget as well, and I come about to the same information in terms of percentage wise and what we could recommend that they put their budget at. I'm very uncomfortable with an over 8% ask this year. I'm going to mimic the same things that Liz has said. I think it's tough on our taxpayers to continue to ask for this. Things are very, very expensive. And I do have some concerns about how big our pre-K program is at the Andover School and what impact that is having on our budget. I also want to say that I think Andover School has wonderful teachers, and I think lowering the ask won't hurt the education of the children. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Does anyone else want to?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Louise.
Yeah, Liz, thank you for all that. I think it's an eye opener, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to say it at this forum. So, and it's being recorded so other people in town can hear it prior to the budget being passed, if they wanted to, you know, question it more at the meeting next week. So thank you for your time and effort.
Thank you.
And that's the point of all of these meetings. I don't know how all of you felt, but I felt like we were sort of directed tonight to what we should do. And so we all have to fall in line with, you know, whatever proposals we're going to make. And that's fine. And we did our job. We're all here to be participants and do the very best we can for our town that we're volunteering in. So that's why it was important for me that whoever on our board has researched or put some information together has their chance to speak and be respected while doing it. I don't know, does any other board members have anything to add, you know, with this final presentation there? Because I understood from the conversation that was going on that we were moving it forward, and like Louise just mentioned, anybody that has opinions, you know, it was great to have a good turnout tonight of the public. Whether I always want people to speak up to me if they don't agree or agree. You know, we all have to stand up for what we want. So negative or positive is fine. But I'm glad to see the public came. So anyone else have anything they want to bring forward?
Thanks
ahead.
for the effort there on that presentation. I mean, I knew that took effort, that took time. So thank you.
Thank you. My husband would appreciate that.
Joanna, back to Florida for vacation.
Right, she
What's
was
up, Eric?
calling. Right, like the volunteer hours that we put in and the research we do, it might not be well received, but it's a lot of time and effort, you know, to at least bring. Go ahead, Rob.
I think Eric has something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Yeah,
I
he sent
just,
us, oh,
so I sent you some information regarding a budget message. So you guys, as you're all aware, per the charter, the Board of Selectmen, not only, or Board of Finance, not only has to present a budget, but a budget message. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that, because whatever gets published has to get published in the next couple of days. So I don't know how you want to proceed with that. The budget's simple. I'll get it from Mark in the morning, his annotated form, and we'll publish that on the town's website. But if you have a particular budget message you as a board want to present, please get it to me within the next couple days so that can be published also.
No, thank you. I know we always have it correct for, so I'm sure, I know Mark usually puts together a presentation, so I will send him an email. Or you said you sent it to all of us?
I
Or a
didn't give you
request?
a presentation, but I
No, no,
gave you the documentation on spending. You'll have to adjust that because
Right.
you've made some changes to it, but
Yeah.
that overall, that document's okay.
Right. Okay, so I will follow through on your request to, let Mark know the things that we have to have prepared. I will look over the spreadsheet too. Am I allowed? So if I find any errors, we're not allowed to correct them. I think I found one last year and corrected it at the budget meeting. Is that what we have to do?
That is correct, because you've
Okay.
adopted a spreadsheet, although I don't actually have that. Mark has the updated copy.
Okay.
So he's got the official copy that you've all adopted.
Got it. Of course. Let's see, we already did the vote. Is everyone comfortable with moving to public speak at this point? I don't know if there's any more discussion by board members.
I'm good.
Thank you. Bill?
I'm good.
Okay.
good.
Liz?
no, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Louise and Kim, all set?
Yeah, I have one quick question.
Go ahead, Louise.
Presentation that Liz just did, can part of that or all of it be added to the meeting for next week? So the people that are there can actually view that information as well?
We can certainly find out. I don't know the parameters. I know that we have had additional documents at the meeting before.
We could enter
Correct,
it into
Eric?
the minutes. We could enter it into the meeting packet or into the minutes, right?
Right, that's what I'm asking. I think we're allowed to, the document Eric gave us last week as far as the capital projects and everything update. We could add what Liz just presented. Yeah, I think we're allowed to, but I'm saying because all of these charter things come up, we'll just run it by him and make sure, but thank you, Louise, for bringing that up. We'll check into that.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. And now I'm gonna do public speak, I guess, one more time. I'm going to go to Scott Person.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Carol Lee.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Jesse.
Hi, yes, I'd like to thank Ms. Lochek for that, creating and presenting that. I think it's long overdue. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Chris. I'm not sure if she's still involved. Marcy.
Hi, yeah, I'm very, very impressed with Liz's presentation. Thank you so much for all that. I imagine it was took a lot of time. I know in these volunteer positions, there's a couple ways you can go about it, and you can either go about it and work really hard to make sure your time is well spent and you're doing what you can for the town. Or you can, sit by and rubber stamp and, just allow everyone to have whatever money they want. I mean, that's the easiest thing to do. But I know how hard it is to ask the questions and ask fiscal restraint from, our town's workers. So I appreciate the effort that you guys are all doing there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcy. Leanne Hutchinson?
Yes, I also want to thank Liz for putting that together. I learned some things tonight, and I want to thank the board for seeing that she was able to speak, because you, obviously, as you know, you spent a few minutes at least determining if she was going to be able to continue to speak tonight or if it was going to take place another time, depending on apparently your vote on the overall budget. So also, as somebody who asked an informational question during the first public speak, I appreciate this Liz's presentation.
Great. Thank you, Leanne. Okay, I don't see any other. Eric, did I miss anyone? Can you see more people than, I think I got everyone.
But Chris Heracli,
Oh,
did you get her?
she's the
Yeah, I'm
assistant.
here. I've got no comment, Joanne.
Thank you. I did ask you, Chris, did you hear me?
Yeah, I had trouble unmuting it. You moved a little
Okay,
too
good. I
fast.
just want you to know
Okay.
that I did see you. No
Yep.
problem.
Yeah.
Is anybody in the community room still?
I don't see that on my screen. Is it still there? Oh, Andover
Showing-
Community Room. My
Yeah,
apologies.
it's
Thank
showing
you.
muted.
Yeah.
Can you unmute?
I looked a couple minutes ago. There's nobody left in the community room.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, according to my calculations, it looks like we got everyone. So we're moving on to our final number of the night, which would be adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Beat
second.
you, Bill.
I have to accept, I think there's guys, so I'm gonna accept Liz's first as the motion for adjournment, and then would anyone like to second it?
I will, Kim.
Okay, Kim Person is seconding the motion. So
You
this
got-
time I'm gonna remember to take a vote. I just shut off the last time, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think that's everyone. I did forget discussion. Sorry. Me and procedure. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss? Okay.